All right, welcome back. Today we're diving into a huge idea, something that could fundamentally change how we all live online. I mean, what if you could truly own your online identity instead of just renting it from big tech? It's time we talked about the sovereign identity revolution. Just think about it for a second, right? We've all done it 1,000 times. You land on a new website, you see that little pop-up, and you click log in with Google or sign in with Facebook. But who's really in control in that moment? Is it you or is it them? So, the source material we're looking at today uses this really powerful metaphor. We're building our digital lives on rented land. On the left, you see where we are right now. Our identity is just borrowed from a handful of tech giants. If their security gets breached, it puts everything you've ever connected to it at risk. You are basically the product. But on the right, that's the alternative, a sovereign identity that you own. And here, if a breach happens, it's contained to just one service. You're the owner, not the product being sold. Okay, so that brings us to our first section, the problem with logins. Let's really dig into why building your digital life on rented land is so risky. All right, so after the problem, what's the solution? That's section 2, your new digital identity. And this is where we get introduced to a core piece of tech called the UID. So what is a UIID? Well, it stands for Universal Integrated Identity Decoupled. But what does that actually mean? The key idea here, and this is important, is to think of it as your own personal digital bedrock. It's your sovereign, user-owned root identity, locked down with advanced encryption, and it's designed to be the foundation of everything you do online. And the best part? It's owned entirely by you. You know, what's really fascinating here is how this UUID is different from older tech. If you're a developer, you're probably familiar with UUIDs. They're basically just static strings of numbers, a fixed tag to label data. But a UUID? That's a whole different beast. It's a dynamic user intelligence identifier. It's not just a label for a database, it's a master key for you, the user, designed to secure your identity. Okay, and this is where it gets really clever. This is the genius of the system. How does it actually protect you? Well, let's walk through it. Say a new service asks you to log in. Instead of handing over your real core identity, your UID generates a totally unique 256-bit alias just for that one service. Now, imagine that service gets hacked down the line. No problem. You just rotate or even delete that one single alias. Your core ID, your real identity, and all your other accounts, they remain completely untouched, completely secure. The risk is perfectly walled off. Okay, section 3. Now that we've got this idea of a sovereign identity, what can we actually build with it? This is where we get into social networks as utility and a concept called SNaaS. SNaaS, it stands for Social Networks as a Service. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It's all about reimagining social media not as some giant walled-off product controlled by one company, but as a basic utility, like electricity or water that anyone can just plug into and deploy for their own community. And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea. We're talking over 160 distinct social networks already up and running on this SNaaS model. It's an ecosystem that isn't just possible, it's actively growing right now. So you might be asking, okay, that's cool for developers, but what's in it for me? Well, here's a perfect example. This system completely changes how verification works. By doing a single Know Your Customer check with your UID, basically proving you're a real human being and not a bot, you can unlock benefits across the entire ecosystem, like 100 gigabytes of free cloud storage. You're rewarded for helping keep the network authentic. And what about the builders? The people who are actually going to create this new web? Well, the incentive is massive. We're talking zero platform fees. The whole point isn't to build another walled garden and take a cut. It's to give creators the tools to build their own interconnected worlds without a gatekeeper getting in the way. So what's powering all this? It's a pretty unique philosophy. That takes us to section 4, the open source engine, which is all about a program called Linkspreed Source. You can think of Source as kind of the operating system for this whole new internet. Its core ideas include things like open source AI, so no more secret black box algorithms deciding what you see. It has tools for non-technical creators, a suite of apps to replace your expensive subscriptions, and the whole thing is built on a foundation of total transparency to earn the community's trust. And this right here really shows their commitment to making this stuff accessible. They call it vibe coding, and the idea is just brilliant. It's about dramatically lowering the barrier to entry. You don't need to be some coding wizard to build a complex social platform. You just need to have a clear vision, the architectural intent, and the tools will help you bring it to life. All right, so let's zoom out. What does this all add up to? That's our final section, reclaiming the digital commons. This is about a fundamental shift in power, moving you from being the product to becoming a stakeholder. Yeah, this slide right here really brings it all home, doesn't it? On the one hand, you have the old way. Big tech is the gatekeeper, you are the product, and you're building your entire digital life on their rented land. But the Web4 way? That's a whole new ballgame. The user is sovereign. You're not the product, you're a stakeholder. You're building on digital land that finally truly belongs to you. Okay, let's do a super quick recap of the toolkit we just covered. You ready? Web4, that's the new user-governed internet. UIID, that's your sovereign digital identity, your master key. SNaaS, that's the idea of social networks as a basic utility you can just deploy. And Source, that's the open source engine that makes it all possible. And that brings us to our final thought. It's a simple question, but it's a powerful one, and it's really what this is all about. If you weren't just a user, but an owner, if you truly owned your digital land, what would you build?